How many tabs do you guys have open right now?
Oh, like at least 30, maybe more?
Definitely a lot, too much.
Yeah, it's tough to keep up with them all. Why is there not a solution that we can put everything within one roof on one tab?
I mean, I feel like it's just kind of difficult. There's a lot of
Yeah,
component going on.
yeah, a lot of moving pieces, I would say.
Have you guys heard of Hospitality Hub?
No, what's that?
No.
Thanks to our sponsor, TravelNet, you can now integrate the best solutions into Hospitality Hub, a single tool within the award-winning Track software. Optimize and integrate with Hospitality Hub, the most powerful platform for property management teams. Learn more with the link in our show notes.
Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's just you and me today.
I
It's just the two
know, I
of us.
know. Just the
We
two
don't.
of us.
I know. Seriously, I was like, had that song in my head. I wish I had that queued up on our DJ track
I
over here. Just
know.
start queuing it up. Man, it's gonna be weird without Michael. So for anyone listening to the audio version, you're just gonna hear the lovely Brandy and Will duo. We're not gonna have our third trio here, but it's okay. He'll be back next week. I was gonna play a prank and say, yeah, Michael quit the show. It's just us now. There's all this drama, but that's
Yeah.
just not us. And yeah,
We don't want to talk about it at this time. Please respect
Yeah.
our privacy.
Yeah, no comment. We're pretty sensitive about it. Just kidding. He's doing good. He's just at an appointment. So Brandy and I get to jump in, and we're excited because interesting topic, maybe polarizing views, but I doubt it. I think we have quite the same opinion on some things here today. So Brandy, before we jump into the main topic though, how was your weekend?
It was so much fun. We had the Romy launch party. And so it felt just really nice to celebrate. We're also celebrating our Series A, and we kind of realized that we never really take the time to celebrate our wins. You just kind of like keep going to whatever needs to be done next. So
Yeah.
it felt really great to just have everyone dressed up, had the party at one of our penthouses on Miami Beach, and it was a great time. So that's why my voice is a little scratchy this morning. It was a fun weekend, but yeah, definitely potentially a nap in my future.
Oh yeah, I would say so. Knowing your bedtimes that you had this weekend were
Yeah.
a little beyond what I would normally take in on a Friday, Saturday, but I love it.
Yeah, the recovery is not as fast as it used to be.
Hey, once you've crossed that 30 under 30 line, you
I know.
can't you can't recover like you once did.
Exactly.
The glory days. Well, I love it. It looked like a great party. Wish I could have been there. Obviously, I think we all travel and have all these conferences and all these things that just it doesn't make sense to keep hopping on planes, but it looked awesome, and I'm glad that you guys did get to celebrate the wins of Series A rebrand. I think obviously it sounds weird, but we don't celebrate as much as we should because I think we're all very much just go go go. So it was cool to see that you guys got that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And I'm excited because we get to see each other in person, talking about travel and conferences and stuff here soon, only like a month away, go a little over a month. But yeah, are you ready for Barcelona? Are you ready at all?
I'm so excited. I haven't been back to Spain since I graduated, so that's probably like 8 years now. So I'm really pumped, and of course to see you and Michael in person.
Yeah, of course. The crew. And we get to see Jamie Lane as well. So the four of us will be together, which is amazing. But before we jump into the episode, we just want to give a big shout out to Scale Rentals, the whole team there, for inviting us out, and of course for our sponsors of AutoHost, Safely, and Operto for sponsoring the crew to fly out to Barcelona to broadcast live and get some amazing content. And we will include this link in the show notes. But if you're listening on the live or if you're following right now, make sure if you haven't gotten a ticket and you are planning on attending that you use code GMH10 for 10% off. That way you get a little special gift from us for obviously being a listener or follower of the show. So that's our kind of a quick announcement here. And speaking of the devil, here we have Damien live on LinkedIn commenting to the amazing show that we have, and I'm excited. I'm pumped. All right, Brandy. So I think we just skip the news. There's not really any news. Let's just go in.
Perfect. Let's just love that.
Love that for us. I think we're
love
just
that for us.
Yeah. Let's go in. Excuse me. Main topic today. So I wouldn't say, and we've made this comment on the show live before, we are not trying to bash Airbnb. Airbnb is not a enemy of GMH. We're not trying to be like, oh, they're the worst, and we're going to make them every conversation. This is Good Morning Hospitality. We try to hit every kind of topic, travel to hotels and short-term rentals, but this is one that's kind of popular in our sphere, which is how now I think the mainstream media is seeing with Airbnb stock dropping 4.9%, a whole 4.9% drop. They're thinking this direct book movement is causing Airbnb to shake in its tracks, which I doubt. But we have some thoughts and comments there. So, Brandy, I would love to hear kind of your opening thoughts on this conversation.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, like you said, this is not an Airbnb bashing program. Airbnb spends a ton of money on PR. It's like their biggest marketing, component. So obviously they're the ones that come up, and they're also just, I think, kind of ubiquitous now. Like they're just like this, everybody knows Airbnb. So it's not surprising. I think there's the two separate components of this. The stock price isn't really quite as interesting to me right now. Like the financial markets are, have been all over the place recently. So, but I think the important thing is talking about the industry shift towards direct bookings. And this is something that hotels realized and are continuing to kind of act upon, where they're like, hey, why are we paying all these OTAs, commission fees, trying to get more of those direct bookings? I think
100%.
Any operator is going to be focusing on getting direct bookings. That's just not, why would you, if you can. And I think that the, bigger property managers are obviously going to start putting in more effort to their direct booking, to their own website. And I think that is the thing that Airbnb should be a little, I won't say nervous about, but paying attention to. Like, how do they maintain these relationships with big operators who are basically supplying, they're their biggest suppliers, right? And so, what are they going to do to kind of, keep some of, keep people engaged with the platform and wanting to be on the platform? Like, I think it is kind of, the fact that everybody pays kind of similar commission rates. Like, I would think that if you hit a certain, threshold, that maybe you get like a special, commission rate or something like that. So, I think it's just, Airbnb is, kind of facing this moment where people are becoming a bit more savvy, about their channel mix, and any good operator is going to want to have a more varied distribution channel mix, because then you're not so reliant on one platform.
100%. And I think we've seen some articles in the recent past, last couple weeks, maybe a month or so. Airbnb is exploring more revenue options as a platform and a company anyways. And so maybe not due to a shift in direct bookings, but I think they are even realizing they need to diversify their revenue and income away from just booking revenue. And like you said, Brandy, I think, the more they can keep hosts and property managers engaged and guests engaged on the platform, the more likely better off their business is going to be. I would say, this is something you and I kind of talked about pre going live, and was, the bigger property managers, I think 100% diversifying their inventory across multiple channels and then just building out their own brand. I think, Romy's a great example, like, not to play off of the launch party, but just more of, Sextant stays, I remember maybe I could just say I could see a difference from Sextant to Romy and how like you guys are making that more dominant, putting more investment and time into the Romy brand. Now that you guys feel like it's a traveler, friendly, it can be said in multiple languages probably without any kind of like stumbling of words and all this other stuff. So like making it more easy for consumers to understand you guys rather than Airbnb or Vrbo. I almost said VRBO. So like, yeah, I think it's just, I don't know, from bigger property management standpoint, it makes sense. I think there's smaller property management companies too. And I'll use us for an example. We're only 10 homes. So, but when I say only 10 homes, we've been putting a big effort into our brand. And like, to give my business partner, Adam, a shout out really quick. We had a guest yesterday. Once they booked, they got their automated message, and his comment to us was super nice to see that we're dealing with a professional management company that has automated this flow for us to make sure that like they knew it was automated. They they didn't think, we just immediately messaged them, waiting by the phone. But just saying like, hey, it was nice to see that it was an automated message. It was something that they're in the hospitality or travel industry with British Airways. So they were like, this is really, really great. We appreciate it. And we're excited to work with a professional company. That was kind of their overall comment. So I think, yeah, go ahead, Brandy.
So you're totally right. Like, I mean, Sextant was problematic for a couple of reasons that I'm sure are pretty obvious. When we started off, it really like having our own brand wasn't really as important. And it was much more like investor real estate focused, that kind of thing. And so once we started to get bigger and we were like, wow, yeah, we don't have any real customer facing marketing. And it just was problematic. And then even in 1 month, we've seen across platforms, when people are leaving reviews, they're mentioning Romy more than like they ever would have in, reviews when we were Sextant. And that's just in a month. So it's obviously just something that's so much easier to say. And all throughout the guest journey now, regardless of the channel that they're booking on, we're doing things to encourage them to either maybe Google us, making sure that the brand is front and center. And so that even if the first time that they stay with us, maybe they're coming through booking.com or Airbnb, but then, we're hoping that they will now have a positive relationship with the brand and come to us direct for all their future travels,
100%. Yeah. And honestly, like for us too, we use digital guidebooks. So our digital guidebooks are all branded and, making sure that is dominant, and there is a way for people to contact us directly, to rebook with us directly. So it's pretty interesting to see. And I would love your thoughts on this too. And anyone who's listening or watching live, I see we have quite a few of you on LinkedIn right now, from what I can see on my end, but would love to hear the thoughts on, I think it's funny how Airbnb's stock drops a little bit, and then all of a sudden, all these articles come out, and we've seen some people in our industry sharing posts and commenting on this and whatnot, going into how it is in direct correlation to direct bookings. And I would be curious to actually know if that's true. I don't think it is, but I would love to kind of share a quick quote. Speaking of Damian Sheridan, I reached out to a couple people this morning, especially in the book direct space. So Damian, Mark Simpson, a few others in our industry, and asked for a direct quote, just saying, hey, what are your thoughts on this article? And Damian says, what surprises me most is the staggering denial in the upper echelons of Airbnb to not understand that more and more hosts will continue to explore alternative channels of distribution. This has been publicized for years, and there's a link for an example. And then he goes to finish off the quote. Brian Chesky himself saw little direct booking movement threat back in 2021 when he said, we don't think it's happening very frequently. And I would beg to differ, is what to finish off Damian's quote. So I'd love to know, Brandy, your thoughts in this direction as well. Do you think it's a direct correlation to book direct, or do you think it's just kind of a normal shift in the market?
I mean, because the, book direct movement and like that's not a one singular event that would cause, you know what I mean? Like I would say over time, looking at maybe at the stock price, that might be a more relevant metric rather than like this one-time drop. I think that, you know, stock prices change all the time for varying reasons. And especially like I mentioned earlier, the last couple months, there's been a lot of volatility. So I don't think that like the concept of booking direct is directly responsible for this. I think over time, you know, that's something that we'll have to, you know, track and, you know, but no, I don't think that that's the cause for this right now. And it's interesting because, you know, I don't think that the executives at Airbnb are necessarily naive about what's going on. I think that it would be probably not wise for them to go out on like a public platform and be like, yeah, you know, we see this as a massive threat, you know? And so I'm sure, I mean, they are obviously, you know, talking about it and behind closed doors. And I think that, you know, for the majority of their hosts, this isn't going to be the norm. Like the majority of their hosts are going to be. And I was looking in the article because there's an AirDNA quote. You know, basically 1% of all vacation rental hosts generate 35% of the revenue. That is a huge number. And so I think that has probably started to skew like over the last couple of years, that piece of revenue has grown. And so I would say that Airbnb is definitely paying attention to that, because if you have, you know, a percentage of that 1% that pulls their inventory, or their inventory just isn't available because it's being booked on their direct site or really any other OTA, then that's a huge problem. Like that would correlate probably to a bigger drop in their, you know, stock prices over time.
100%. And I totally agree with you on this side of, I think the book direct movement has made a ripple. I will say that. I think for the years, because before I even got into full-time property management in 2019, that was a conversation still very much at large. I remember meeting Damien in 2020 at the Shorties Awards and talking about book direct, and that was very much a conversation. So for sure, I think there's a ripple. Did it go from the sense of like a ripple to like a ripple for this direct stock, you know, drop event? No, I don't think so. But like you said, I think 100% on that 1% that's bringing in 35% of revenue, they're definitely paying attention to. And I'd be curious to see, especially now with them exploring sponsored listings and other like type of ad revenue and other pieces outside of bookings, if that's going to become more and more of a push for them, or if it's going to become less, or if they're going to be more strict. Because I know, and just like hotels, for any of our hotel people, so I'm kind of jumping thoughts here, but, you know, hotel people at the end of the day, you know, Booking.com and Expedia, I remember meeting with both of my reps at the hotel that I managed, either every quarter or whatever. And it would go into the conversation of how, one, to use the platform better, so that way we had easier operations, but two, how can we directly like partner with them and work with them in the sense of, you know, they told us, I remember one of our reps, she was awesome, basically saying like, you should not be relying on us. You should not. We should be filling in the gaps in your calendar from your own like availability. So that was one, a great mindset for her, but two, it definitely helped us, because then when we were talking to guests, when we were training our front desk agents to go into, you know, guest turnover from OTA to direct, you know, how can you incentivize properly? What's the information you can do? How can you make it not a sales pitch, but more natural, and especially for our repeating guests and stuff like that. So I think there's definitely a lot of ways to kind of finish off this thought. I think just more of to naturally do it without pushing and upsetting the OTA as a partner and as a distribution platform, but just the natural progression of a guest. If they stayed with you once or twice, especially at a vacation rental, why not get them booked direct and have that experience? They'll be like really easy and hospitable, where it's like, this is Canali, welcome back. We're so excited. You know, like your family vacation every year. What can we do for you? Anything you want to do special? What have you not done on your list? Blah, blah, blah. Like just making it more of a hospitality experience, I think is the right phrase, but yeah.
Yeah. I've also heard, you know, Airbnb's tried to get people to, you know, exclusively commit to listing on their site. And I think, I mean, I highly doubt that will can, be a reality, because I don't think any property manager is going to do that. But I think that's you can definitely tell that they are aware that this is happening, because those rumblings have occurred. So I think it's really interesting, because where the hotel industry has been, Expedia and Booking.com, these companies have been around for a long time. Hotels have already kind of figured out the game, the relationship, and all that. Whereas, the STR, like these platforms have really kind of they're like in their heyday of that right now. Right. So I think, Airbnb is a relatively young company. So it's kind of finding out what the hotel OTAs have been finding out over the last, decade, really. So, it's no surprise to see things like sponsored listings. Like, you're going to see, there's reasons why Expedia does things the way it does. It's because it's been working,
Yeah, 100%. And I would be really curious from the standpoint of Airbnb, how long is this, I guess, conversation going to be? I know it's always going to be at the forefront of the industry, but I think, as we talked about last week, we talked about how the hotel industry, or the hotel segment, and the vacation rental segment have always kind of been at odds. And now it's like, okay, well, we've obviously seen that vacation rentals do some stuff better and have like the more flexibility, and kind of the amount of growth that we've had in the last 2 years has been insane, to how hotels have had that standardized process, and they've already kind of worked out a lot of these issues that we're facing now, especially when it comes to OTAs. It's very interesting. And to, kind of just riff off of what we said last week, I think that's a false narrative of like hotels versus short-term rentals. I think we're both learning, right, that there are so many different pieces that go into our different segments that make us very complementary to each other rather than differentiators. And so I'd be curious to see how companies like Romy, how other companies in your guys' same like urban operator, multifamily building, handles this type of stuff, as you guys are a big leader in inventory for platforms like Airbnb and Vrbo and Expedia, etc., to then how that ripple kind of shift happens down to property managers of our size. We're single family homes. We're only 10. We have like 5 or 6 new contracts in the pipeline. So like, as we're slowly scaling and going in that route, how your guys' effect with the massive amount of inventory, makes that kind of impact on the platforms and the directions they go.
Yeah, it's funny because I always kind of joke around about how, we'll have, especially in the early days, like potential landlords, or now just like people that aren't super familiar with our industry. They'll be like, so how are you competing with Airbnb? And I would just be like, oh my God, this person has no idea how this industry works, which is fair. Like we're so deep in it. And then when we announced the rebrand, the TechCrunch article headline was like, Romy raises 14 million to take on Airbnb. And I was like, oh my God. And but the thing is like, for all my kind of like scoffing at that, it is kind of true, and it's becoming, I think the larger you are, especially, and not that smaller operators can't, have a robust direct booking program, but the bigger we get, the more we are kind of in competition. And it's more about, relentlessly trying to get direct bookings, because when we're going through financial statements. We just had our Q1 leadership meeting. We're going through all of these things, and you can see like a massive line item on the P&L is the channel commissions. And we're like, think about what we could be doing with that money. Like, and the article also makes the comment like how, the hosts are charging more on Airbnb and like charging less on their own website. And it's like, obviously, because, and there was a while where we weren't as like aggressive with that, but of course you're going to want, because you have a 15, 17, 20% commission. That's 20% of the booking money is not coming back to you. So it's just, it's interesting that these articles that, and kind of these big thought pieces that are coming out, we just see the repetition of these themes. And it's not just in relation to direct bookings, but there's some other, kind of like housing crisis things. Like all these themes keep circulating and coming back. And I don't really think that there's going to be like much of a change in, I think, my thoughts and kind of what the industry is doing. I don't think the next time we talk about this that we'll be talking about anything like drastically different.
I agree. And I'm curious, maybe just to make this that we don't really get very how-to and educational, not that this isn't an educational program, but more of a direct like act and respond, or what do you call it? Kind of a response call to action type deal. But if anyone listening today is hearing the conversation about your line item of OTA spend for Q1 and talking about like how you guys could use that money, if you had full control and you had all that money to spend today, Brandy, as COO of Romy, where would you put that money into your guys' business if you didn't have to give it to the OTAs?
That's a great question. There's two things that immediately come to mind. One of those is just like even more like CapEx improvements to some of our buildings. Those, I mean, things are really expensive now. So we have, 20 plus buildings. Like we have to pick and choose what projects we tackle. So it would be great to take some of that and complete a big project. And then I always, when we have like extra room in our budgets, I really love, trying to find ways that we can give that back to our team, whether that's, an increase in salaries or, a bonus or, fun company events, just doing things to keep the team engaged. Because, unfortunately, like when you're looking at things to cut and all of the, when you're trying to make sensible financial decisions, some of those fun things get trimmed first, naturally.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm actually surprised by the answer, because I thought maybe you'd be like, oh, we'd be like doing more brand marketing or some, other stuff like that. But no, those are both great answers. And I think, from a lot of people who watch this show, who listen, I know are very much culture driven, very much leadership driven, where projects and things like that for the properties and the homes themselves is great, but the team part, especially in these times where it is very hard to find good, loyal, driven, self-starter kind of staff and team members, to not just say like they're employees, but to actually, I love the word team, because I think it definitely kind of breaks down like that barrier of I'm your employer, and like, yes, there is that relationship. Like I'm your boss and you're here for a specific job or duty, but adding it into a more passion driven, more purpose driven, if maybe not passion. It's hard to be passionate cleaning toilets, but I've met people that can and are. And so yeah, I love that. I think it's a great answer for spend.
We from like the marketing side of things. So we like really didn't do much marketing for a company of our size for like many years. So that money is now being put into the brands regardless of the commission fees. We kind of looked at it and we're like, if we're looking at our projected revenue for the year, and then you look at, how much of that is non-direct bookings, and think of how many like millions of dollars that we are giving to these companies. And we're like, it is absolutely worth putting more money into marketing, especially now that we have this lovely new brand, because any amount that we spend on increasing our direct bookings, increasing our brand awareness is going to be, there's no way it will be millions of dollars, so we might as well put some money into those efforts.
Yeah, totally agree. I love it. Well, to wrap up the episode, you ready for a fun fact of the week?
Let's hear it.
Awesome. All right. So AirDNA, of course, as all of our listeners and viewers know, has been working with us to provide you a fun fact of the week. And so this morning, since I wasn't able to text Jamie on Easter, I wanted to make sure I didn't interrupt some family time there. But I texted him this morning. We got a fun fact. And this fun fact is supply growth continues to be a hot topic as hosts and operators prepare for peak season travel. In March 2023, there were 1.34 million available short-term rental listings, a 19.9% increase from last year, which is pretty insane. This compares to a peak increase of 25% last summer. out of the 50 largest short-term rental markets, the Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona market leads the country for growth, increasing supply for more than 66% year over year, followed by Los Angeles, California with 37% increase, which I did not expect Los Angeles to be the one to to follow
That's
that up.
surprising. Yeah.
Yeah. So around the country, there are only 12 markets with declining supply, 3 of which include Colorado, ski towns like Aspen, Steamboat Springs, and Telluride. So Aspen down 6%, Steamboat down 9%, and Telluride down 10%, which sad day for my new home state.
There's a lot of, I'm assuming a lot of that has to do with regulatory things that have been happening in those markets.
100%, all regulatory related for sure. I know Robin Cragen with Moving Mountains could attest to Steamboat on how I know when I was visiting him, there was a couple conversations we've had around what's happening with the regulation and taxes and just the amount of craziness happening on a local level there. I don't know specifically for Aspen and Telluride, but I do know from dealing with a lot of real estate companies out here and obviously run responsibly. Shout out to Dana Lubner, to Dave Kraus and Alexa Noda. But just talking about regulations is a big topic out here in Colorado. And all my friends that I tell, like, oh, I'm in short-term rentals and hospitality, and we have a podcast network. They're like, oh, how many homes do you have in Colorado? I'm like, we have 0. Not because of the lack of a good market, but lack of good support from a regulation standpoint. So
yeah, we were looking at Denver at one point just as a potential and realized very quickly that might have to be further down the line.
Yeah. Let's get through some of this, but anyways, all good. What a fun episode. It was weird not to have Michael, but it was actually kind of nice just to have you and me just kind of riffing back and forth. I like it.
Yeah. Lots of fun.
I love it.
I am so excited to do this in person and not on Zoom.
Yeah, not on Zoom. Or StreamYard and Zoom, whatever platform. We've got a couple comments come in, so thank you to everyone tuning in to the live. With the increase of supply is met with increase of demand. I think, Brandy, what are your thoughts? I think demand can outweigh supply, and I think supply can force demand, but that's just me. I think that there's a outpacing of supply and demand. Like demand is increasing, but certainly I don't believe keeping pace with. I think Jamie had some facts about like actual numbers about that a couple weeks ago. So I think that is increasing, but I think we'll see like supply go down as we had talked about this a couple weeks ago as people kind of realize it's not 2021 and those ADRs aren't coming back. So if you want to get your own fun facts, I forgot to mention at the end, you can use code GMH20. There's a link in our show notes, so make sure you grab that link, get your own fun facts, and check out old episodes. Brandy, anything for the viewers before we wrap everything up today? Have a great week ahead.
Yeah, have a great week, and I hope everybody had a nice holiday weekend, and we'll be back next Monday.
Awesome. Well, you heard it here first. Tune in live every Monday. Good Morning Hospitality, 7 a.m. PST, 10 a.m. EST. Like and subscribe, and a big shout out again to all of our live viewers and listeners. We appreciate you guys, and we love doing this every Monday. So we'll see you next week.